Okay, so the last class we had highlighted the points on the text given for directed writing about social media. The first text is the use of social media by teenagers, by youngsters. The other text is by a teenager and tries to highlight the positive ways it can be used. Okay. Now, one thing to note over here, obviously, which will be useful in our evaluation and overall writing, is that the person who is against is is a parent, is a father, is 42 years old, whereas the person who's in favor is himself a teenager, right? And that will obviously affect views. So let's just quickly, we've highlighted the points. Now I'm not going into rephrasing. Okay, we did a rephrasing exercise, but yeah, okay, let's try that. Let's see how we can manage. Okay, we have done rephrasing with the summary. So, right, apps are designed to attract and keep users' interest. This means that hours can be lost. So we can write that down. Right, so one point that we have is that the app is made to keep users engaged and you can spend multiple hours without even realizing it. Then the next point that we have, right, and these are points in favor, sorry, against, right, the social skills don't develop. So you can say, I'm writing this in kind of note form, so they aren't properly fleshed out sentences, right? But their social skills don't develop, so you can say that they end up lacking in real life social skills. Intruding on family time. All right, so they're occupied with the devices even during family events, family time, or bonding opportunities wasted or lost. Not bond, but bonding, so it must be that. We then have feel that their own lives aren't good enough. So this one's, you can use some terminologies over here if you're familiar with them. Fulfill. That's something we can write. Um, Mental health problems and accidentally see unsuitable content. Okay, so mental health problems. And psychological problems, mental health issues, psychological problems. I think I'll leave it. Okay, so these are all the points against. Now I'll just leave that over there on the white for a moment. Right? Erase that, then we're going to work through points in favor. All right, provide quick and easy way to communicate with other people. So quick becomes fast, right? Convenient, more, more patient. That's one point. Then we have people who are less confident, might be easy to talk to others online. So it could help teenagers struggling with self-confidence, with others, and help us to build skills we can use in the real world. Right, so they could help in developing or learning or training skills that would benefit in real life situations, understand other people's lives, and spread positivity. Perspective, how others go through life. Or, actually, both of these are different. It's not the same thing. Going through life and living life are two different things. Right? So living life might be, they're choosing to live a showy life, a fashionable life, or a humble life, and how they're going through life, meaning how they're managing day to day, how they're dealing with the problems or other occasions. So the context is different for both of these. Keep that in mind. Spread positivity. So, right now, doing good is much more broader than just spreading positivity. Again, keep that in mind. Right? And then some of these points will also help in evaluation. All right, so leaving it there for 2 seconds. It's not. Now coming to the evaluation. Right, so for the evaluation, the very first point you want to know, right, is difference in approach of a difference in perspective of authors of both comics. Right, so one is a father, right, who is witnessing effects of social media on his children, right, and the other is a teenager, right, with actively engaged in social media use. Right, and so from here, you're going to obviously set out that the person, the teenager, may have a valid point, but possibly, their perspective is the way because they are using it themselves. So if a person is using something, then they're obviously going to defend it. Right now, also keep in mind the task, right? So you have to, so you decide to write an article for your school magazine giving your views on the advantages and disadvantages of social media for young people. So you can choose either. You can choose to side with the advantage, you can choose to side with the disadvantage, right? But if you're careful, maybe a hint is that the advantages are not as strong. The points of the advantages are not as strong simply because the person who's stating the advantages is someone who is actively engaged in social media use, and so they won't see the disadvantages, right? It is others around them who see that they're struggling, they're not, they're struggling at school, maybe they're not paying attention at home, they're not giving time to family. They're lacking in social skills perhaps, and they're very happy just by spending time with the device. Okay, so point number one, evaluation is actually very important. And so, right, obviously before you decide, as I mentioned last class, pick a side, right? So I'm not telling you which point to use where. I'm just working through the evaluation. All right. What else can you write over here? Please go back and take a look. It's very normal to keep looking back at the points that you highlighted. Right? It's not that you're committed to memory. You should know the text is there. Keep referring to it. Okay. Okay. So the ease and availability, right? And so I'm also linking this to the point in the that's against that hours can be spent without realizing. And so our communication becomes easy, it's available to everyone. But then the chats become time consuming because you're just quickly going back and forth, and then wasteful messages. And it's something that we all experience. So wasteful messages that don't really have any value, that they didn't need to be sent. It's like random chats, random messages to keep yourself engaged all the time, and always being connected, right? So yeah, something pops into your head. I don't know. It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and you send a message. It's like getting late. It's 11:30, maybe it's 12 at night, and you send a voice note or a picture or video or something. And so you're all, and the other person is, I've actually seen this happening like at 3 at night. Right? Someone sends a message and then other people responding. So they expect the response. Right? And so you're always connected. And this is like a real life issue. Okay. Is there anything else that we can evaluate over there? Right? So social skills do not develop, and then it says over here building skills that can be used in the real world. So I, as you can understand, I'm taking the approach more towards disadvantage. Now, remember, I told you last time when they're talking about advantage and disadvantage, you can discuss both. Do not take just one side, right? But the way you present them will show how you're leaning, and then when you're coming towards the conclusion, then you clearly state your stance, right? So, uh, interactions online and real life are very different. Skills, work, and social media. Oops. So, social media. Health, social skills. Okay. You can see how the evaluation is you going beyond what's given the text, you connecting the dots and then thinking further. All right, what else do we have? Now, it's not that it's not like to evaluate each and every point. Just keep that in mind. So there is cultural exposure, right? Understanding how others live, but also, right, showing off lifestyles which are fake, right? Instagram, TikTok, and everything, Facebook. What they show is not what's real life. Right? Self-esteem. Acha, how it can affect mental health? You can say that, right? Or unsuitable content, right? There's other stuff that you could mention, right? Blogs perhaps or groups, cyberbullying, right? And so I've got 5 points of evaluation. Now you can do some more, right? You can try some more on your own. For example, spreading positivity. So you could say, right? Let's add a positive point. Social media, force, catalyst, science, which understand that term. Mm, good. So yeah, maybe adding one positive point. And again, right, so there may be one or two more points over there that you could go into and think about. Right now, the text that they're giving, right, from what we've seen in the May, June, and the October, November, so you've got 4 papers so far, 2 sessions, 4 papers, and the texts aren't very complicated, to be honest, so far. Right? I don't know if they choose to dial up the difficulty level, the challenge level, but so far it's been pretty straightforward. And so it's something that even if you have some very basic general knowledge about stuff, then you'll be able to process it. So that's the evaluation for this one now. Uh, any any questions about this before I move on? No, I'll take that as a no. Okay, so I'm raising the board. Now what we are going to do, right? So we are done with this. I'm going to take a look. Right, so this was an article, so I'm starting with article first. And I'll share these documents with you from the group. And so what these do is that they highlight how you want to approach an article. Right? An article will be, first of all, the audience, right? So if you're writing it for a school magazine, the language will be semi-formal. If you're writing it to a regular, normally it will be a for a school magazine. If you're writing for a regular magazine, then it might be formal, but semi-formal works. Okay. How do you want them to react? So, right, perhaps you want to present the argument, and maybe you want to try and persuade them to your point of view, right? So you want to use the kind of language that would make them agree with you. What's the purpose of them, right? Are you trying to make them agree with you, or just trying to inform them, right? The fact that you will choose a side at the end is you stating your opinion, but then also, right, maybe try and perhaps not win them over, but give them something to think about. Uh, how to keep your readers' interest? So, art include different vocabulary, relevant vocabulary, right? And grammatical structures, not always simple sentences, not always compound or complex sentences. Right? So you want to vary that, so that variation will help interest. How are you going to plan it? So an introduction, and middle, and end. We talked about this right the last time. And you want to use connections to link your paragraphs and even link points. Right? Similarly, likewise in addition, however, on the contrary, right? So these are some things that you can look up, right? Using connecting words or linking words. You can look those up. And I just mentioned some. Show the reader at a glance what the article is about. Right, so there's supposed to be a heading for an article. Right, there's supposed to be a heading for an article, and there's a sample over here. Okay, so that's all they're showing. So, right, this one is about online friendship. It's kind of, you know, not necessarily similar to general use of social media, but it does have that theme of online interactions. Right, as you can see, there is a heading, and an article and report. A heading is necessary. Okay, so you want to do that, you can use for one paragraph, two paragraph, three paragraph, four paragraph, right? So that's how you want it. Right, it's annotated over here, the good and the bad, right? So you can go through that. I'm not going to detail for each and every one. As I said, I'll share these with you. Okay, keep in mind that the sample itself that they've given is not according to the new syllabus, right? So you won't find evaluation over here, right? This is according to the older question patterns from the syllabus before 2024, where they just give you a prompt and tell you the kind of information they're expecting, and you write it completely on the own, right? And so, what you want to focus on over here is the structure of the article, right? Not the content. Okay, the approach, not the content. And approach also might be like according to syllabus, so just how they've gone about and maybe some of the strengths that they mentioned or something about this. Next, we have the letter. Again, letters can be formal or informal, articles or semi-formal mostly, especially if you're writing it for a school magazine, and this one is for a school magazine. Right, so semi-formal over there. Letters can be informal or formal depending on whom you're writing them to. Right, again, this is mostly the same, all of this. Right, another thing like, talking about time scale, so maybe if you're writing with your friend telling about an incident, so currently, previously, prior, so these are formal verbs, right? Before that, the next day, right? An hour later, again, depending on what it is you're writing. So these are words to, show time. Linking words, right? Now the linking words that you use depend on, right? What you're writing. So furthermore, however, in conclusion, again, right, this is an example of a formal letter, right? Because it's been written to a hotel manager. Again, you won't find evaluation as such over here. What you want to see is you don't need the address and the date and you can just start with what's called the salutation, right? The comma, introduction, body, body, conclusion, and you must yours faithfully. But it's not yours, it's yours. There should be S over here, not apostrophe S, just to plain and simple S. And your full name. You can make up a name, just don't write ABC or XYZ, right? Uh, your own name if you want. You can make up a name if you want. It depends on what you're comfortable with. Okay. Also, one thing to keep in mind is, right, you can either write hotel, which is, the easy way to go, the safe way to go. They mentioned the question, write it to a hotel manager, write it to a company executive, a government official, something like that. And you can start with, you wouldn't write dear government official. You can do dear sir, dear madam, or dear sir slash madam. If you don't want to, if you don't know whether it's a sir or a madam. And right, that's the safe way to go. If you do know someone's name, right, you can write that. If the question is asking for that, perhaps, or they hinted towards it. But just doing dear sir or dear madam or dear hotel manager in this case, for example, or dear inspector if you're writing to the police, if that's the kind of question it is, then okay, and then you have yours faithfully, so yours faithfully. Similarly, dear aunt, dear cousin, one thing. And for aunt and cousin, what you can do is because you're expected to know the name of your family members and friends, right? So you can get away with dear aunt, dear cousin, not so much, dear friend, not so much, right? So you would want to give a name over there. And because you know the person you're writing to, you know their name. It's not just about knowing the name, let me clarify. Right? Even if you know the name of the hotel manager, because it's a formal letter, in fact, no, back up, sorry. So if you don't know the name, you're ending with yours faithful. If you do know the name and you're writing that down, even if it is a formal letter, then you will end with yours sincerely. Okay? So that's what you do, and so right, an informal letter is right. You will include it now. The leniency that you have for an informal letter is you could do yours sincerely. You could do cheers, have a good day, lots of love, best wishes, because it's informal. You're writing it to a friend or a family member. Right? So those kind of things. But for formal, yours faithfully or yours sincerely, and starting with dear, you don't need to be respected, so and so and so. Okay, just stick to the standards they work. Okay. Email then. All right, so same thing. I'll share this with you. Uh, they're saying that you can emphasize important information in bold but not to overdo it. Right, so the information they're giving over here in the box is slightly different for the kind of task they're talking about, but are mostly the same. So an email is a bit different from a letter. It's mostly the same because I asked this during one of our Cambridge trainings. I asked one of the facilitators from the UK, and she said that it's pretty much the same. Okay. Only thing you could do over here is, for example, add a subject line, right? And then, so hello team over here is because this is, the manager writing the team. And so it's a person in authority writing to someone who is in charge of, and so they can use the semi-formal tone instead of writing dear team, they can say hello team. That will also seem, make it seem more approachable. Again, it depends on the perspective, the approach to the letter. They haven't used a standard signing off, but it's more according to the theme of the letter. So let's make room for a break and see how it goes. So that's based on the content of the letter and then name, right? So the email is slightly different from letter, but mostly the same. Then we got a report. A report is formal. Keep that in mind. Reports are formal, DM. Okay, and these are factual, and you are giving information about whatever topic has been assigned to you, right? So in this case, you're writing it to the principal, and so that's what you want to start with. This is not a heading; it's just addressing whoever it is. So to the whoever it is, right? To the class teacher, to the principal, whoever is asked to write the report. And the report also has a heading. So and the heading is very simple. Whatever the task is, a report on, and whatever the task is. So task is to give a report on the school career day, a report on the school career day. Again, so you don't have to come up with anything complicated, anything fancy. Okay, so this is introductory. All right, body paragraphs. All right, so the three body paragraphs in this case. All right, and a conclusion may, may have your opinions, and right, in this case it does. And it depends on what the report is. So perhaps the question asked about insights, highlights, and what you learned. And so that's how they use subheadings. Implement subheadings are not required. They are not a requirement. Okay, they are optional. You can just break up the paragraphs and the reader will understand what you're talking about. Right, so that's the report. I'm going to end the meeting. There's a 10-minute break. When we come back, we'll talk about the speech, we'll talk about narrative and descriptive. And I think we'll end a bit early, and that will be the end of our crash course as well. All right. So I'm ending now, and we will meet in 10 minutes. I'll message them to rejoin. Keep yourself available. All right.